Every so often, there are some really important issues that keep coming up. One of them truly is the issue of female pastors. And there's a lot of reasons for this. And I've barely scratched the surface on why this is a major issue. Here's a big reason. Over the last 70 years, maybe even as long as 100 years, over the last 70 to 100 years, we have seen a rapid and rabid feminization of the church in the West. Female leadership, uh, emotional worship, and a very, very feminine attitude and look to the church. And while many of you are okay with that, it's not exactly biblical. And the results of feminization of the church, well, they're not pretty. For one, the vacuum that you have created by feminizing the church and moving against masculinity has opened the door for another breed of false teachers to rise up. And I'm talking about the Brian Swabs and the Corey Mahlers and the Joel Webbins of the world. These, man, I don't even know where to go other than to say that they are Hitler-loving, woke right, evil men. And because these evil men are rising up, and because you have feminized the church and made masculinity, quote unquote, toxic, and you've put men down for so long, men are flocking to these guys because suddenly they have somebody that tells them it's okay to be a man, it's okay to be strong, it's okay to be masculine, and it's the man's place to run the church. It's the man's place to run home, and it's the man's place to run the country. Now, here's the truth. For every lie that they're telling, there's an awful lot of truth. Biblically, it is the man's place to run the home. Biblically, it is the man's place to run the church. Biblically, the best leaders are men because men are decisive. Men do not really put a lot of emotion into making decisions. They're far more rational and they're quicker at making decisions. God has uniquely given men the ability to make decisions in a world that is fallen, but in a world that requires decisive, quick, non-emotional decisions. And so you have all these people, all these men flocking to Joel Webbin and Brian Swab and Corey Mahler and all these other guys, Nick Fuentes. And the reason they are doing that is because those guys are, at least on the outside, overtly masculine, when many in the church are overtly feminine or weak. There is nothing good, nothing attractive, and nothing biblical about being a weak man. There is nothing good and nothing biblical about feminizing the church or letting women lead and run the church. For many, many years, men have been leaving the church and women have been taking over the church. Men need to stand and step back into their positions of biblical authority, but they also need to take ownership of the church. They need to love their wives. They need to lay their lives down for their wives. But they also need to not be weak. They need to be strong. They need to be able to say no. And they need to be able to take a stand. And when you push against that for so long, you have exactly what we have today. We have the world turning upside down. How many of you could have imagined 20 or 30 years ago that people soon would be actually thinking that Hitler was a great guy, or that Nazi Germany was justified in all the atrocities that they committed, or that the Jews were to blame for all the world's evils? Well, guess what? You went to sleep and you woke up, and it's 1933 again. And how did this happen? The same way it happened before. Feminization of the United States, feminization of Europe in the 1910s, the 1920s, and the 1930s led to World War II. And feminization of the American church and American society in general is leading to the chaos that we have today. So, Zach, what's the answer for all this? Well, the answer is, of course, the Word of God. The answer is always going to be Jesus Christ. The answer is always going to be adapting a biblical worldview in the church and teaching truth. And for godly men, sorry, ladies, godly men to stand up and refute this. For godly men to say what you are doing is wrong and refute this. And actually equip yourself with facts. Study history, study the Bible in an expository manner, chapter by chapter and verse by verse. Study history. Get history books that haven't been written in the last 30 or 40 years. Go backwards. Read some real histories from the men who were there concerning World War II. Read about the Weimar Republic. Read about World War I and its aftermath and how all this stuff happened. Read about the Sino-Japanese War. Read about what happened and the rise of fascism and the rise of communism in the 20th century, so that you understand exactly what is happening now in the 21st century. Equip yourself for battle and understand that being weak or being feminized right now is the absolutely opposite thing that you need to do. If you are going to stand against the re-rise of Nazism, the continued rise of leftist communism, and all this garbage, you have to be equipped, and you have to be brave, and you have to be strong. You have to gird your loins. You have to be ready to take the argument to them and not give them any slack. And when we preach and teach in our churches, we need to preach sound biblical truth, no matter who it offends. I preach the Word of God every Sunday. And let me tell you, every Sunday the Word of God offends me because it exposes my sin nature. It exposes that without Christ, I am a man that deserves death and hell. That's the truth. And if we want our churches to be transformed, we need to preach sound doctrine, sound truth, and disciple the people that are within our four walls. Stop giving John 3:16 every single Sunday. Stop continually spreading the gospel and start preaching doctrine. Start preaching Christian living in your church. Start going into the hard things that most people don't even want to touch, because it's far more fun to scream at people, jump on pews, be a showman than it is to preach and teach the Word of God. Act like men. Be strong in today's world. In the midst of this chaos and confusion, be strong. Be strong. All right. Read the Bible for yourself. God bless.